Welcome on in to the Utah Blockcast. I'm Steve Bartle, Utah Insider for KSL Sports. Back with you guys on a Monday, December 8th. Here we are, almost halfway through the month of December. Man, oh man, time is flying. Just last week, Utah welcomed their 2026 signing class, and we'll be running through the class, sharing some superlatives, which is always a fun little activity. Kind of get a feel for Utah's signees. Utah basketball got the victory over the pesky Cal Baptist Lancers, 91-85 Saturday night. They've now got Mississippi State on tap in a neutral site game at the Delta Center this weekend. So I'll talk briefly about the game Saturday night. Not that it's like super important, but just to recap, Kyle Whittingham watch. When should we expect to see something? I don't know, but we're going to talk about it. So let's go ahead. Let's dive into some things. And obviously the news over the weekend for Utah football officially official. After it was confirmed by Brett McMurphy and others, what we long suspected, Utah headed to the Vegas Bowl to take on the Nebraska Cornhuskers. And this is a pretty favorable matchup on paper as it looks right now for Utah. Currently opened up as two touchdown favorites over the Cornhuskers. And with Matt Rule leading that program, they're going through a bit of transition, it seems like, making some changes. Dylan Raiola potentially headed to the transfer portal. Emmett Johnson, their running back, headed to the NFL. We're going to get a shell of this Nebraska Cornhusker team, but I think this is a great spot for Utah to land. Going down to Vegas for New Year's Eve should be a lot of fun for Utah fans to make that trip down there and get one last game of 2025. Obviously it's disappointing that Utah wasn't able to get to the Big 12 title game or to the college football playoff this season. But I think it's important to really kind of keep the perspective, right, of what 2024 was, how difficult that season was, and the pain that Utah fans felt, I'm sure, has not been forgotten. But I still think it's just important to keep that perspective, and good on Utah for having the year that they did this year, getting back to the sort of standard that we've come to expect from Kyle Whittingham and his football program. And I think having the opportunity to go down south, 5-hour drive, for some of us it's 4, But no, I think this is a great spot to land in for Utah, all things considered. I know a lot of people were hoping for the Alamo Bowl, but I think this is a great spot just to kind of cap the 2025 season for the University of Utah. And so, obviously with everything else that happened this weekend, I think it's official. This is no longer a Notre Dame podcast. Just to make that abundantly clear, I know it's been a few years. But just to be absolutely 1,000% clear, this is no longer a Notre Dame pod. I'm sorry, Cam. We're gonna have to drop the Notre Dame. No, I'm just kidding. But obviously, with what transpired with the college football playoff, look, I think we all kind of are on the same page here. Everybody, just give us the 12 best teams. Like, regardless of conference, regardless of what, just give us the 12 best teams, the top ranked 12 teams. Give us that. Okay. Enough of this automatic qualifier stuff. Although I do think that's still important. I'm just fed up of all of these qualifiers, man. We've complicated this thing to the point where it's just stupid and it doesn't make sense. Like, let's just simplify it. Get back to just simple, easy, top 12, and I'm sure the college football playoff will be expanding soon, so this won't even be a problem. As long as you're in the top 25, you're going to have a chance to be in the college football playoff. I think that's where we're headed, and ultimately, I wouldn't be surprised if we get bowl games at the beginning of the year pretty soon here, where that becomes a thing, where you get these featured season opening kickoff matchups, right? Like Utah, Miami in Las Vegas. I think you're going to continue to see more and more of these types of games where you get bowl games featured at the beginning of the year so that it all comes down to the college football playoff at the end of the year. I think that's where college football is headed. And, frankly, what else needs to happen in college football is for the college football playoff to become its own thing where it's not owned by ESPN. It's clear they've made a muck of this thing, and it's just, man, it's just crazy what this sport has become. You've got official college football program Twitter accounts crashing out across the country. It's insane what's happened to our beloved college football. But let's just simplify things. Give us the top 12 teams. Cinderellas will earn it, right? Like they'll have that opportunity. And they should earn it, right? The Boise States, the Tulane, they'll still have those opportunities as long as they're ranked. But man, let's just simplify things and get back to a simpler time, right? Do we need to bring back the BCS? I feel like that's where we're headed. Anyways, enough about that. Utah going to Las Vegas to take on the Nebraska Cornhuskers. We'll obviously preview the game more and more as time wears on, but obviously the official announcement came this weekend, and so Utah will be headed down to Vegas for a New Year's Eve bowl matchup. Kickoff set for I think 1:30 if I remember right. 12:30 maybe. I can't remember. I should look. I just wrote the article, so I should know, but I don't. Anyways, that's what we've got going on with Utah football. Now, let's change gears before we come back to football. Utah basketball gets the 91-85 lunch. Utah basketball gets the 91-85 win over Cal Baptist. In this game, look, I think we're kind of understanding where Utah basketball is this season. This is going to be a long year, especially once we get into Big 12 play. But, you're continuing to see signs of progress, development, improvement. Seydou Traore was unavailable for Utah against Cal Baptist, and I'm sure that impacted their ability to kind of do some things and potentially make that a more comfortable game. But this is a squad that, clearly has a lot of work to do. There's clearly issues, and I think, one thing that I need to keep in mind is, this is about the long game, right? And so as long as we see those signs of progress, I think that's what matters most. And Terrence Brown and Don McHenry were pretty impactful for Utah against Cal Baptist. Very efficient night for both of them. Brown finished with 27 points on 9 of 16 shooting. Meanwhile, Don McHenry added 21 points. He went 7 of 8 from the line, and really was, it was really those two that kind of powered Utah to the finish line. I think the big thing for me here is, just the continued conversation around Keanu Dawes. It was interesting being at the game and just kind of, over the course of the 40 minutes of action, heard Alex Jensen yelling out KD quite a bit throughout the game. Whether it was telling him to take a shot, whether it was coaching him up in terms of, what to look for in certain actions. Alex Jensen was, consistently getting on KD for certain things throughout the game. And I think, for some, you can follow that and kind of think, oh, he's being a little too critical. But I think more than anything, it's Alex trying to get the most out of Keanu Dawes. Watching these 10 games so far, it's clear that Dawes is a significant talent. He's 6'9", 225. He moves really well. He can handle the ball. He can play make a little bit. He can do a lot on the floor. And I think Alex is, getting after him, being hard on him to get the most out of him. And I think, Alex has said things in the past about Keanu needing to believe in himself. And I think that's the case. Like, I think Keanu does need to start believing he is capable of doing all of those things and doing them really well. And if he starts to do that and starts to produce at that sort of level, that's going to be really helpful for Utah as they get into the Big 12 conference play, next month. It's clear that, Terrence Brown, Don McHenry, they're going to do a lot of the heavy lifting offensively. But if Utah can get Dawes to start playing, to the level that coaches see in him, I think that's going to do a lot for Utah. So, need to continue to see more out of Dawes. He finished with 10 points, added 7 assists and 6 rebounds, was just overall productive, did a lot on the floor. I think Jacob Patrick is continuing to prove that, he needs more time on the floor. He was 3 for 3 from 3-point range. He is the guy that provides the gravity, the space that this offense needs to really kind of click. With Utah not having Seydou Traore available on Saturday night, we did see some Ja'Kai Howard minutes, and I thought what he did in those minutes was actually pretty impactful, and I think going to benefit him moving forward. We saw, good energy, good hustle. He hauled in a handful of rebounds. He converted 2 free throws after, going up on a putback attempt. Had an assist on a Brown 3-point make. And I think for him, that's going to be the key for him is buying into just being that effort hustle guy. He's got some things that he needs to work on in terms of his, just the understanding of the offense and those types of things. And that's going to come. But I think as long as he enters the floor, whenever he steps on the floor and buys into just being sort of the effort guy, I think that's going to go a long way for him. He's got potential, especially on that defensive side of the floor. And if he can buy in there, I think that's going to do a lot for him moving forward. So it was good to see Ja'Kai Howard get some minutes and capitalize on, that opportunity. I think he did exactly that. And I think that's going to help him moving forward. So obviously with Mississippi State coming into town for a Saturday night tip-off against the Utes at the Delta Center, I think this is going to be a really important game for Utah to bring their best. Obviously, this is a great opportunity to add a solid win against an SEC opponent. Utah has been working on some things. They've been trending positively. Meanwhile, Mississippi State, maybe not the basketball team that, or at least not gotten off to the start that they had hoped and wanted. They've been dealing with some things. Josh Hubbard sounds like he's also suffered an injury over the weekend as well, which could impact his availability on Saturday night. So this is shaping up to be a good opportunity for Utah to get a quality win. But again, it's going to be important for Utah to continue to work on the little details, specifically on the defensive end. They got exposed yet again on the glass with their inability to secure defensive rebounds, giving up 23 boards, which led to a large number of second chance opportunity scoring for the Lancers, and that's going to be the key for Utah as of right now. Looking at this game, what I know of it, rebounding is going to be the big key for Utah going into Saturday. So more to come on that front. We'll definitely have Andrew Crowley on the show later this week to preview the matchup as well, and looking forward to doing that pretty consistently with him over the season. So let's get to back to Utah football. So obviously, it's December. We know that Kyle Whittingham had a December 5th contract obligation to provide his written notification of whether he wanted to retire or whether he wanted to return. And what do you know? We haven't seen anything. It's been mum. It's been quiet. And I don't think that should come as too big of a surprise to a lot of people. But what's been interesting is, I came into the offseason, to the end of the season, feeling pretty confidently that this was going to be it, that this was the final year for Kyle Whittingham, and that we were going to see him, sail off into the sunset. But over the last week, I think things have definitely shifted the other way, where it sounds like Kyle is leaning towards coming back. But I'm not entirely convinced just yet. But I would start to lean that way, that Kyle is going to return. But we'll see. Regardless, I think we'll see some sort of announcement soon. Don't have specifics or anything like that. I'm not teasing something that I absolutely know, but I think we'll see something soon, and I think that's going to be key for a lot of other things. There's going to be a domino effect once we see something, with Kyle Whittingham. I think then we'll start to see other dominoes fall with, obviously the coaching staff and players and all of that sort of stuff. I know there's a lot of concern over, what could potentially happen if if such and such happens. I'll just say this, that I've heard a lot of encouraging things over the last few days, and I think patience will be key to allow things to play out and all of that. But I think good things are happening for Utah on a number of different levels, and I think that's going to lead to an encouraging outlook going into 2026. So obviously with Kyle Whittingham, his potential return could be pretty interesting. He could still retire again. I don't know for sure, but yeah, I think it could be interesting as you then start to change the conversation to the next phase of the offseason, right? So that centers around roster and roster building, roster construction, roster retention. It's going to be pretty important for Utah to secure the key pieces of this roster that can come back for next year. That all starts at the quarterback position with Devin Dampier and Bird Ficklin. And as of right now, I actually like Utah's ability to bring both back. Said it last week that it seemed like it was trending that way, and it still seems to be that case. You're seeing a lot of cryptic tweets with certain emojis included in them, and I think that's certainly where we're headed. Once you get past the quarterback position, I think everybody is really interested in seeing Wayshawn Parker back in a Utah uniform next year. At wide receiver, you're looking at Larry Simmons and J.J. Buchanan and Creed Whittemore, who I think those three did enough to finish the year where, those are guys that you want to bring back, that you need to bring back going into next season. That's going to be key. Obviously at tight end, Dallin Bentley moving on from the program as a senior, but bringing back Hunter Andrews from injury, that's going to be key. And then, holding on to the rest of that group, Drew Clemens, a true freshman that redshirted. Offensive line is going to be fascinating. Obviously, we Spencer Fano, Caleb Lomu. Man, if you could get one of those guys back, that'd be huge for your 2026 offensive line. But you've got a lot of depth in that room and a lot of players that have been in that room for a couple of years now, right? Guys that we saw this year, Keith Olson, Solatoa Moyai, that sixth offensive lineman role. We saw those two play that role pretty consistently throughout the year. And I think having those guys in that room going into next season will be pretty big. You've got a couple other pieces, Kalolo Taaga, who transferred to Utah from USC. He's going to be pretty key to next year's offensive line, regardless of who decides to come back. And then we'll see what else plays out in that room as well. But defensively, I think there's going to be a lot of intrigue around Logan Fano and what he decides to do. Obviously, he walked, but he has another year where he could potentially come back next season. But I think he's currently set on making that next step to the NFL. But we'll see. We'll see on that front. Along the defensive interior, Dallas Vakalahi, Jonah Lea'ea, and then the 5 freshmen. You like the potential for that room to make pretty significant strides going into 26. And then obviously the other defensive end spot, John Henry Daly. You've got Cash Dillon, Lance Hoskla. Need to hold on to the pieces in that room and continue to maintain that depth along the defensive front. At linebacker, John O'Hall, pretty up and down season. A lot of ups, a lot of good ups, a lot of good progress. You've got Trey Reynolds, Lander Barton, Levani Damuni moving on from the program. Lander Barton accepting a Shrine Bowl invitation. So he's moving on from the program. You've got other depth pieces in Cyrus Polu and Elijah Ellis, 2 guys that I think are going to be pretty important for the group moving forward. You've got Kenai Lopes in that group as well. You've already seen one departure in Christian Thatcher deciding to enter the portal. It was interesting going back to fall camp and and kind of following the team over the season, there was a lot of talk about Cyrus Polu and kind of his future in that room and all of that. And I think there's a lot of belief in him being a guy that can come in and make an impact early on in his career. So I think there's a lot of excitement around Polu and with Thatcher. It'll probably mean that, his brother Thaddeus, a current 2027 QB commit, probably means that we're going to see a decommit there as well. But I think, overall, you still feel really good about the depth that Utah has at linebacker. And then in the secondary, got a lot of encouraging pieces there with Scoob and Smith Snowden, Donovan Saunders, JC Hart, guys that you want to bring back for sure. Jason Stokes, a true freshman this year that got some playing time as well. Those are going to be key pieces to hang on to. Similar to linebacker, you've already seen a departure there in Jalen Moson, who didn't see much playing time at all this year. So, and then at safety, Rabbit Evans, Teo Johnson, two guys that could potentially be back, two guys that could potentially move on. Although I think we're pretty positive that he's going to be making his return in 2026. And then, you've got some other pieces in that room. Brock Fenoy Moana. You've got Nate Tillman, a couple young guys that are certainly trending towards becoming contributors. You're also going to be bringing back or welcoming back Davis Andrews and Luke Bryant from their church missions. Two guys that, could play safety. I think Davis is probably going to end up at linebacker. Just when you're 6'3", 210 on your mission, it seems to indicate that you're probably moving to backer, and I think that'll be a fantastic spot for Davis. Really excited for those two, Andrews and Bryant, to get back. I think they're guys that can certainly help Utah's depth, in the defenses on the defense side of the ball, regardless of where they end up. So, outside of that, we'll see what else Utah elects to bring back, but that's going to be the key guys, at those spots to bring back. With the 2026 class, Utah signing their 2026 class over the weekend. Obviously, the early signing period ended Friday, and things were finalized. Just kind of running through some superlatives here. With the class, always enjoy doing this. Each and every year, these class superlatives, and I think. Obviously, you've got some fun ones. I think the best NFL prospect in this class is Kelvin Obot. Obviously, with what Jim Harding has done with Spencer and Caleb at offensive tackle, I think Obot has all of the qualities to be the best of the three, which is crazy to say because Spencer, Caleb have been incredible, but I think Obot has just a really elite blend of size, athleticism, power, and I think getting to spend the year with Jordan Gross, the progress that he made in terms of his fundamentals and technique from his junior to senior season, I feel really good about Obot being another guy that likely leaves the program early to go to the NFL, a first-round draft pick type of guy. I think he's the best NFL prospect. Best chance to build a legacy. I think that's Celeste Moa. Obviously, a big time flipping him from Tennessee on signing day. Utah adds another top 50 player according to the industry generated composite rating. To add him, he's a two-way talent where he can play wide receiver, he can play in the secondary. He's going to come in primarily as a receiver, and he's going to add an explosive element to this offense that I think has been sorely missing for a really long time. This is Celeste as a kid that genuine 4.4 type of speed and just the overall athleticism to do a lot of things with the ball in his hands. So really feel good about what Utah has in him, and I think he is going to be a two-way guy for Utah, and I think that is going to do a lot in building his legacy as a guy that, with everything going on, with Utah right now, I think he can be a guy that really kind of does a lot for Utah over the next couple of years. So excited about him. Next superlative, your football player's favorite football player. That goes to Isa Nyalye. This guy, again, just does a little bit of everything on the football field. He is just out there making plays offensively, defensively. he just has those playmaking instincts, those natural football player instincts, regardless of whether it's offense or defense. I think he's going to come in and find a way to make an impact in year one. He finished the year 46 tackles, 3 sacks, a couple of interceptions, you know, ran it 40 times for 500 yards, caught it 12 times for another 150 yards, just did a lot for his Orem squad. And I think he's going to be a guy that does a lot to contribute next year. Next one. This is kind of interesting. So Utah's 2025 success helped the most. And that to me is LaMarcus Bell. I think with the success that Utah had running the ball this season, getting to 10 wins, with the sort of production that we saw from Wayshawn, the rushing attack, I think that went a long way in keeping LaMarcus Bell locked in with Utah to fend off the Ducks, the hometown Ducks at that, and keep him locked in. I think that is a credit to Utah's offense, the production that they enjoyed, and Bell seeing the opportunity that he has in coming to Utah as a running back. I think that's a big thing. So Utah's success there, I think, really helped them in hanging on to Bell and keeping the Ducks at bay. The next one, the most intriguing developmental prospect. To me, this is Preston Pitts. So he's currently committed as a linebacker, and at 6'4", 213 pounds, he's got the frame where, yeah, he could end up, 230, 235 pounds in the mold of a Lander Barton, a Devin Lloyd. He certainly has that potential in him as an off-ball linebacker. He could potentially, add on a significantly more amount of weight and move to defensive end in the mold of, a Kylie Fitz or others of that same sort of mold where he's 6'4", he gets to 250 and, really adds kind of a unique twist to that defensive end spot where he can kind of be that hybrid linebacker defensive end. So I'm really curious to see his development, especially in the first couple years with the program. I wouldn't be surprised if he starts off at off-ball linebacker and then moves up as he gets older and matures a little bit. But to me, he is the guy with the most interesting developmental outlook because it can go linebacker, it can go edge, and either way, it's pretty promising whichever way he ends up going. So that's what I've got in terms of my superlatives for the class. Would love to hear from others who your favorite signee is in the 2026 class. Thoughts, questions, any sort of ideas on the class. Would love to hear from you guys. I do anticipate that we're going to see some news this week on a number of different fronts. Wouldn't be surprised to see something as soon as tomorrow. But good things are happening for Utah. I think obviously winning goes a long way, and I think winning cures a lot of ails, and it also does a lot to kind of help build momentum going into the offseason. So I think good things are happening for Utah football, and we'll start to see some announcements that reflect that. So I'll go ahead. I'll wrap this one up. Appreciate everybody for tuning in. If things break, obviously we'll go live and do emergency stuff, all that sort of stuff. But just wanted to get on, record a quick episode, kind of set the stage for the week, and we'll get after it this week. But appreciate everybody for tuning in. Myself, Utah Blockcast, signing off.